Welcome back to coverage of Mythic Championship number 3 as we get closer and closer to locking in our finals. Hey everybody, I'm Maria, that's day 9, that's Paul Cheon, and what an exciting morning we've already had. We've got one of our finalists locked up, Matthias Leverato.
I feel like I was just here.
Yeah, we were.
Like, that was the fastest match we've had all 3 days, I think.
And it was not a matchup that where you expected it to last like 6 minutes. It was I kind of expected kind of a grind fest, planeswalkers all over the place. No, it was lethal biogenic ooze and a kill on turn 6 from Leverato's game 1.
I mean, sometimes Simic Nexus can just do its thing, shut the door, and then keep doing its thing and hit concede. Well, let's take a look at our bracket to find out what's happened already today, what's going to happen coming up later on. There you can see grand finals. Matthias Leverato already locked up there, meaning Brad Nelson has gotten booted down into the lower bracket. But that means coming up next, we've got to find out who's going to win here. Shahar Shenhar versus Kai Budde. This is going to be a mono-red versus Esper Hero matchup, which we've seen a few times, but oh boy, have we got some good players piled in these decks.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked a lot about that $100,000 first place prize, but fourth is $20,000. Third, $40,000. Third,
not bad.
$50,000. This is a huge leap in prize pool money to go from third to fourth. So there's a lot on this line.
Absolutely. And of course, now we're getting to the point where this is an elimination match. Lose and you're out. Earlier you can lose and you still have that shot, right? So a lot on the line here. And we have Shahar Shenhar going up against Kai. We've seen this matchup before. And typically, we talk about how Esper might be slightly favored, but Shahar's been playing against all these decks and just kind of beating them down.
Yeah, I mean, it's really Shahar Shenhar's construction of this deck that I think is going to give him maybe even a bit of a marginal edge against Esper Hero. And this is part of the reason why, as you see, 2013-2014 world champion. When we take a look at Shahar Shenhar's deck, I want to point out 20 mountains as opposed to a smaller number. There's also lots of card draw, 4 experimental frenzies, 2 Chandra Fire Artisans, 4 light up the stage. Often red decks can only deal 20 or 21 points of damage before having an empty hand. Shahar has a longer term game plan built in to his starting main deck.
Yeah, the mono-red aggro deck has completely kind of shifted gears in terms of how you build this deck anymore. It's not all about kind of flooding the board, having a bunch of 1-drops. In fact, Shahar even shaving a 1-drop in his deck in Fanatical Firebrand in favor of kind of those more expensive cards like Frenzy and Chandra Fire
I
Artist.
love Diagonal Monkey, man. The Fanatical Firebrand, he's so cool.
That's a great nickname, Diagonal Monkey.
I know. I remember I was streaming one day and everyone kept spamming Diagonal Monkey. And I was like, what card is... And then I played it and there's a Diagonal Monkey there on the field.
It's a goblin.
Perfect.
But what's so cool is we've been talking about this too. What an opportunity for Shahar to head back to Worlds potentially and lock up what would be his 3rd title there, which is just almost unbelievable to think about.
Yeah, I mean, both players with just extremely impressive resumes. Of course, Kai, just one of the greatest of all time, and now just kind of showing that he's still got it. He's got 7 Pro Tour victories, and now with this, he can potentially make it 8.
Class is timeless. 7 Pro Tour titles going for 8. And the deck that Kai Budde is bringing, this Esper Hero deck, it's kind of funny. We were talking about Esper Hero as being tons of people building against it with Esper Control, with Bant Ramp, things like this. But the Esper Hero deck, see 2 of them here in the top 4. It's such a solid list.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, taking a look at this list, you have just all those incidental life gain cards that really kind of help you shore up that aggressive mono-red matchup. The key cards here being the 3 copies of Oath of Kaya that you see on the bottom of the screen, along with Elite Guard Mage. Both of those cards are just so powerful here. 3 life is just counteracting an entire spell from the mono-red deck. Lightning Strike, Wizard's Lightning. Okay, well now I get my card, I get to kill your creature, and I get to basically take one of those cards out of your hand.
And very notably, the only card that differs between Kai Budde and Brad Nelson is that 1 copy of Ugin the Ineffable. And Ugin is not really a card that's helpful against red, because you die by turn 6 often.
Right, definitely. Kai definitely tuning his deck slightly with that 1-of swap, and I think Mortify would be much stronger in this matchup because it gives you that additional source of interaction early and still kills cards like Experimental Frenzy, whereas Ugin is extremely powerful in the mirror. And you saw, I mean, I don't think he regrets putting Ugin into his deck because we saw time and time again Kai winning with that powerful Planeswalker.
All right, I'm going to put you both on the spot. Day 9, who are you picking for this match?
I'm going to go with Shahar Shenhar because mono red, talked about it before. It very often just runs out of steam quickly. And Shahar's build specifically is trying to counteract the fact that so many Esper decks have incidental life gain. So I do think that Shahar has maybe even a little bit of an edge in this matchup.
All right, how about you, Paul?
So I think it's a close matchup, but I'm going to have to go for kind of one of my childhood idols growing up playing this game. When I first started playing Magic competitively, Kai was winning it all, and now he's back. So I'm going for Kai here.
I'm super excited to see this because really it's a question of what's going to be happening as the game unfolds. Shahar Shenhar's deck can have huge damage in the first few turns and close it out quickly, or could be the case that Kai Budde will continue his run. He made an amazing run in lowers. Can he do it again on day 3? Let's find out.
All right, let's welcome these players to the stage. First coming out, the 2-time world champ with the mono red aggro deck, the last aggressive deck standing in today's tournament. Welcome to Shahar Shenhar. And he's called the German Juggernaut for a reason. With 7 Pro Tour titles under his belt, maybe we're gonna make it 8. Welcome to the stage, Kai Budde! Let's throw it over to Alias V and Cedric Phillips for the call.
Thank you very much, Becca. I'm Alias V. This is Cedric Phillips, and we have a match for the ages here. German juggernaut Kai Budde versus 2-time world champion Shahar Shenhar. This is going to be a phenomenal fight.
How could it not be with such great players in the feature match area? Both have had interesting runs to where they've gotten to at this point. For Shahar playing mono red here this week in a deck that, if you asked everybody about 3 or 4 weeks ago, was far and away the best deck in the format. It wasn't even negotiable. Now, as we move forward, this is a deck that very few people actually played in the tournament, Alias. For Kai, it's a different story. Doesn't play a ton of Magic anymore, but, you know, if you're going to play in a standard tournament and you have to say, you know, who should I ask to play? What deck should I play? Who could I find? I guess Brad Nelson and Brian Braun aren't too bad people to ask. Would you agree?
They seem like pretty good dudes to steer you in the right direction, and it seems to be the case. I have to ask you, Cedric, do you think Shahar took a risk bringing mono red?
You know, I really don't. I think the deck is still absolutely fantastic.
Solid.
Yeah, I think it's still a great deck. I understand why players got away from it, and I'm not even trying to be results-oriented here. As Shahar takes a look at his opening hand, it's still just an incredibly, incredibly powerful deck, and I do like its positioning in this particular matchup. Though Kai's deck has plenty of powerful cards as he takes a look at his opening hand, there are mana issues that can occur with the deck. Too many shocklands means he'll take too much damage, and some of the cards are a little slow to the battlefield, like its Fairy Hero of Dominaria and that Ugin that Day 9 talked about.
So the opening hands, a snap keep from Shahar, and Kai Budde is taking a look at this one watery grave. I don't think this hand is going to make the cut. We got to get a start here. We got to make sure we can get rid of these red threats early and often. We're going to see a mulligan here. This looks a little better.
Nobody likes a mulligan, but if you are Kai, this hand is at least acceptable. Now, I do want to note in this matchup where we have seen so often Hero of Precinct 1 be such a great card, it is merely okay in this matchup. Shahar has very cheap removal that can take care of the hero before things do get out of control. So this is one of the matchups where Hero of Precinct 1 isn't an elite card. That's good news for Shahar, and you can already see in his opening hand with Wizard's Lightning, he's got the 2-2 taken care of.
Starting things off, we've got the Sideways Monkey swinging in for 1 point of damage. I like to call him Frank the Fanatical Firebrand, but, you know, Sideways Monkey will do just fine. Running out the Runaway Steamkin, let's see if we'll get some crazy combos off with the double copies of Steamkin, or if Kai Budde can deal with these pesky threats.
Shahar is in a pretty enviable position thus far. He's got a 1-drop into a 2-drop. Steamkin, one of the best cards in the matchup if it can live, and it looks like it's going to as we head into turn number 3. Experimental Frenzies, plural. He's got a couple of those in his hand to work towards if we get towards a later game. But I like his start here. Kai, with a copy of Thought Erasure and Hero of Precinct 1, gives him some different options on turn 2.
Looks like we're going to fire off the Thought Erasure first. No Hero of Precinct 1 to create the token just yet. Sees the Experimental Frenzy ×2, another Runaway Steamkin, and a Wizard's Lightning. possibly gonna go for the Steamkin here. There we go, in the bin. Let's try and dry up any potential sources of mana. As the Steamkin grows, it is able to empty itself and provide extra mana sources for the red player. Drawing Chandra Fire Artisan off the top. We're gonna hope to find some more land if we are Shahar.
Shahar's draw is a little bit awkward here. He's got 3 extremely powerful 4-mana spells in his hand. Those 2 copies of Experimental Frenzy I've already spoken about, and now the Chandra that you mentioned, Alias. If those do get on the battlefield, they're very, very good cards, but they're going to be a little late to the party, and that Oath of Kaya was a great draw there from Kai.
Fantastic draw indeed, getting rid of the runaway Steamkin before it becomes a threat. And now we've got 2 Fanatical Firebrands chipping away at Kai's life total. He is now on 17. But that's still very much life for an Esper player. That's perfect.
Yeah, so
now 15.
This is actually fantastic too, as he does fall down to 15, as you mentioned, because now you get the 1-2 punch of Hero of Precinct 1 plus Thought Erasure, going to be able to pick a card out of the hand, and more importantly, make a 1-1 along the way. Again, oftentimes in this matchup, Hero is just going to die. It's not really going to live. You're playing against a deck that has Shock, Wizards, Lightning, and of course Lightning Strike, but how this game has shaped up, Hero of Precinct 1 might be better than expected.
Maybe, especially if Shahar doesn't find his 3rd source, his 3rd red mountain. Wizards Lightning in the bin, making sure that the hero will stick around for another turn, finally finding the 3rd land.
Well, it's going to have to be runner, nothing's funner
Yeah.
here for Shahar. If that's the first mountain, he's got to find another one, and then he can go towards Chandra or Experimental Frenzy. Right now, you got Kai starting to take over this game. Of course, Shahar's got plenty of life to work with as a hostage taker comes rolling off the top of the deck. I suppose if you are Shahar, you're happy that your opponent hasn't worked towards Command the Dreadhorde. Oftentimes a card that's not great in this matchup, but how this game has kind of drawn up, it actually would probably be okay, I think, for Kai.
We're going to see Teferi Time Raveler hit the board, creates another 1-1 token off of the Hero of Precinct 1. Fanatical Firebrands can kablooey and blow up the Hero of Precinct 1 if they so choose, but they're going to hang out there for a little bit. I know they're hasty and they just want to kill stuff, but let's take our time here. Little Franks, it'll be fine. Teferi now plussing, allowing Kai to play sorceries at instant speed.
Yeah, I think it was
Just keeping his options open.
Shahar, it's time for your 4th mountain, my friend.
That
That's
is
not
a
it.
3rd monkey.
Chain
We like armies of Fanatical Firebrands, but they're not going to get the job done here. Shahar needs to find that 4th mountain. We need to see Experimental Frenzy hit the board or Chandra. We see another Hero of Precinct 1 in the hand of Kai, along with the Hostage Taker and Command the Dreadhorde, which could come into play at a later stage in this game.
There is some good news here for Shahar. He's sitting at 20. He's got a little bit of defense up. I know we don't think of Fanatical Firebrand as a defensive card, but in this situation, it can play somewhat defensively. With that in mind, that means that he's going to be able to delay the game long enough to be able to start casting his 4-mana enchantments or Chandra, assuming he does find that 4th land, of course. And Experimental Frenzy and Chandra, those are the kind of cards that can take over a game all by themselves. So Shahar's game plan is pretty clear, and Kai knows it because he's already seen his hand.
Exactly right. So we just now wait to see if we find the 4th mountain for Shahar Shenhar. Kai Budde now deciding what he wants to do. He's got a 2nd Hero of Precinct 1 in hand. Could run that out, potentially replay the Oath of Kaya. In response, Shahar can sacrifice Fanatical Firebrands to ping off maybe potentially one of the tokens on the field or try and get the Hero of Precinct 1 off the board, but now there's 2 of them.
Now, one thing that is worth noting in this instance as Teferi Time Raveler has rolled down from 5 to 2 counters is that Experimental Frenzy can be bounced by Teferi's -3 ability, and it bounces an artifact, creature, or enchantment. Notably, it does not bounce a Planeswalker, but given that Hero of Precinct 1 and friends are on the battlefield, managing Chandra does not appear to be that difficult. So Experimental Frenzy needs to come down next turn. It is imperative that Shahar draws a land the very next turn because Teferi cannot bounce it right away.
So, taking the safe route, Kai pinging upstairs instead, taking Shahar Shenhar down to 17 life, swinging in with 2 tokens, and we draw a Lightning Strike off the top.
Not the worst draw because it is playable. You can either target Teferi or you can target Hero of Precinct 1. You're going to have to do it on your own turn because of Teferi's static text saying you can only play instants, and you can only play at sorcery speed, pardon me. So, it's a smart play there from Shahar. It looks like he's going to try to take care of the other copy of Hero of Precinct 1 at this stage of things. But Teferi's going to be rolling up to 3 here momentarily, and that means that when Shahar does deploy Experimental Frenzy, it's easy for Kai to bounce it and make him play it again, and that kind of tempo swing might be too much for Shahar to come back from.
So the pair of hostage takers in the hand of Kai Budde, as well as a Commander Dreadhorde. We have 4 1/1 tokens on the board. And the hostage taker comes down. It's going to attempt to take the Fanatical Firebrand, which in response is going to go kablooey and take Teferi Time Raveler down to 1 loyalty. He will go back up to 2.
I like the target there a lot because, again, as I've painted the narrative of Experimental Frenzy being bounced by Teferi, that's going to delay that a turn. So this, again, gives Shahar the opportunity to draw a mountain, but he cannot find a 4th land.
Where are your mountains, sir? He's probably thinking to his library, come on, one time, give me that 4th mountain. I would like to put one of these very, very powerful spells on the board. Lightning Strike, picking its target. Does it go for the hostage taker? Do we take care of Teferi Time Raveler? Let's see where Shahar goes.
This is the old rock in a hard place as he's kind of sliding that Lightning Strike around. Killing a hostage taker is fine, but again, now Teferi's going to move up to 3 counters. You see the draw there of a Hallowed Fountain, but it's those 4 creatures that are on the battlefield as well. But I do want to note one thing here about Kai. He's played a very, very nice game, but he's sitting at 16 life. When you're playing against mono red, you know, if you're sitting at 16 life as an Esper hero player.
You're more than happy.
Yeah, you couldn't be happier, honestly. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Command the Dreadhorde be played here. Now, remember, it can be played at instant speed, so we could see Kai play it on Shahar's end step, get back some hostage takers, runaway Steamkin, so on and so forth. But Shahar's a pretty smart kid. He's thinking about conceding the game right now as he looks like, you know what, let's try to deploy Experimental Frenzy, but here is CTD and Command the Dreadhorde.
CTD, I like that.
Thank you.
So, Experimental Frenzy EF? No, let's not do that. Experimental Frenzy, no, excuse me. Commander Dreadhorde getting back the hero Precinct 1, but Shahar's seen enough.
I was getting slaughtered when I mulliganed into the command. That's how I lost the last match.
A little bit of a chit-chat there between the 2 players. I like seeing that back and forth between the 2.
Yeah,
now let's go to sideboards.
Kai was noting that, you know, his opening hand, it was a 6-card hand with Command the Dreadhorde. That's essentially a 5-card hand because the Command the Dreadhorde has essentially no impact. I mean, you're playing against a deck with burn spells, right? That card should be essentially textless, and it's just a 1-of, so it's one of the worst cards you can see in his opening hand. Let's say, for example, he saw that with the Scry, he would immediately put it to the bottom. But the way the game shook out, Command the Dreadhorde didn't really come back to bite him. He actually used it to close out a game that he was already winning. So no muss, no fuss for Kai, as now Shahar's going to do a little bit of sideboarding here. He can still play towards his top end with Chandra and Experimental Frenzy. I know he wasn't able to deploy them the last game, but ideally he's able to deploy them in this one and run away with the card advantage that those cards generate. He's going to do some odds and ends here with Fight with Fire and other things like that, but at the end of the day, with Shahar on the play, I do think things are somewhat favorable for him. Things just didn't break his way in that first game, Alias.
Yeah, and you see he also brought in Tibalt Rakish Instigator, which could help him out if he can get to it, get it down, prevent the life gain that the Esper decks rely on just to stay alive in order to get to the late game, deploy their plans, and just take over the game with the Planeswalkers, the removal spells, and just...
Well, there's 2
yeah.
T-balls, right?
Tibalt is such an interesting card in the matchup because if it shows up too late, it's not very good. If it shows up on turn number 3, it can be extremely good, especially when you're on the play to blank in a copy of Oath of Kaya or enter the God Eternals, 2 cards that Kai does have access to, as you see him sideboarding and chit-chatting with Shahar during the sideboarding process. The nice thing about Esper Hero, and you see this with other decks like Jund in previous standard formats, is you really get to make your deck a lean killing machine against what you're playing against. You get to get your mediocre cards out, get some awesome cards in, and it makes it very difficult for the opponent to overcome everything. This is a pretty good hand for Shahar. There's a lot of powerful cards here, and he only needs 1 land for his 4-mana spells. I like this keep.
Same, taking a look at, 3 Glacial Fortresses in the mulligan. That's not what you want to see if you're Kai Budde. For those of you just joining us, this is Kai Budde versus Shahar Shenhar. Do or die time for both of these players. If they want to continue, they have to win. We are on game number 2.
This is what we like to call tough keep. Tough keep for Kai. These are Glacial Fortress plural. They enter the battlefield tapped. That means he's going to be playing off curve unless he draws the right land. He also doesn't have black mana at this stage of things. And Enter the God Eternals, as good as it is, I'm not sure he'll ever even be able to cast that card in this game.
Let's see if that prediction comes to light. Runaway Steamkin hits the board, starting things off. What did we find? That's an Oog and Ruh-roh.
From bad to worse. Maybe the 2 worst draw steps that Kai could have. He needs black mana really bad. Ugin, yikes, not so good.
Runaway Steamkin and the Legion Warboss token hit the board, swinging for 3 points of damage. Hostage Taker is the draw. Not great for Kai Budde. This is a terrible start for the Esper Hero deck.
With one mana.
But on the other side of the board, this is looking pretty spiffy.
Shahar might get this one on the house. I mean, Teferi Time Rattler would have loved to come down there on turn number 3 to bounce something and slow down Legion War Boss or its token that it generated. Now Shahar actually gets to think about things because this is a turn where he can go absolutely nuts with Runaway Steamkin and not have to worry about anything.
He could string together so much here. We play the Mountain, we swing for an attack, or we slide the stage, get to Lava Runner, and then we can get Experimental Frenzy down with the Mana. Oh goodness, there's just so much you can do on this turn. It's insane.
Some of the stuff you're going to want to do pre-combat to maximize the amount of damage that Runaway Steamkin can deal. So he's going to play the Guillotine Lava Runner pre-combat, even though it doesn't have haste. A little mentoring here from the Legion War Boss, and all of a sudden Kai's falling down to 9, but it gets better, Alias V.
Oh, yes indeed, Cedric. Let's light that stage up. Let's find another Mountain, another Runaway Steamkin. Experimental Frenzy is there in the hand as well. Chandra Fire Artisan is a pain in the butt for so many decks to deal with, and I think we're going to see almost everything hit the board here. Let's see what we can do.
Looks like Shahar's going to go towards playing an Experimental Frenzy, perhaps.
Okay. So there's another Runaway Steamkin, and there's the concession from Kai. He knows that this board is not favoring him at the moment, so let's go to game 3.
That's a freebie there for Shahar.
Yeah, so very much so.
That's the power of playing an aggressive monocolored deck. You don't have color issues. Ideally, you draw a nice mix of lands and spells. You've only got 20 lands in your deck, so the other goal there is to draw less lands than spells, but ideally just enough to be able to operate. He came up short in game 1, drew plenty in game number 2. Kai couldn't interact because his lands were too slow and the colors were off. The good thing here for Kai, and I know most Magic players have been in this spot before against Mono Red in game 3. In game 3 against Mono Red, you want to be on the play.
Yes, indeed.
Kai is on the play for game number 3. Being on the play is very powerful against a hyper-aggressive deck like what Shahar is playing. So we'll see how Kai wants to move things in and out, given that he is on the play now as opposed to the draw. But as you look at the setup here, Alias, here's the thing. He's got so much interaction. Cry the Carnarium, D-Spark for 4 mana spells, Enter the God Eternals, Oath of Kaya, Teferi Time Rattler. His whole entire deck is awesome cards.
Yeah.
They are really, really, really good cards, but it doesn't matter if you can't cast them, as he couldn't in the last game.
So the library needs to behave. Let's see if it does for both players. That's a bit of a yikes. I'm going to give that a little yikes. This hand, on the other hand, is not too shabby, and we're going to see a keep there from Kai Budde.
I don't mind this hand here for Kai. It is a little bit risky. I do like Shahar taking a mulligan here. This is not the ideal hand, and I am curious what he's going to do with the shock, and he's going to leave it on top. That means he does have an answer for Hero of Precinct 1.
That is the hero killer right there. That little 1 mana 2 damage spell. So what do we get off the top of D-Spark? As you were mentioning, great at killing the 4 CMC cards. Here Precinct 1 is going to hit the board and disappear rather swiftly. Bye-bye. Not right now, thank you very much.
2 things to note about that turn there for Kai. 1, he had to take 2 damage to play the hero. 2, he didn't draw a land. So right now, he doesn't have a 3rd land. And we'll see. This draw step is very important. If he draws a land, he can play Teferi, draw a card. Life is pretty good. Ooh.
Oh, there we go. Godless Shrine off the top. It's all right. It's okay. Panic slowly. So we will see Teferi Time Rattler taking another 2 points of damage to play that untapped. And Teferi is going to start plussing.
Again, remember that Kai had to deal himself 4 points of damage this game, but Shahar is not off to a very fast start. He thought about playing Direfleet Daredevil on turn 2. It's just a textless 2/2 first striker. Elected not to do that, looking to generate some value from that card over the course of the game. So now it looks like it's going to be Tibalt, which isn't too bad.
4th land off the top there for Kai, and the 5th land. So he's doing all right. He can play out his most powerful spells. He has answers to mostly everything in Shahar's hand. Chandra hits the board. It's going to get D-Spark. Direfleet Daredevil is easy to get rid of with the Enter the God Eternals. So now, the most important thing, though, Tibalt on the board there is not allowing any life gain. So that Guard Mage, you're just a 2/3 flyer that draws a card, buddy.
It is preventing life gain, which is certainly nice here. Now, the goal for Shahar would be to have an aggressive advantage and an aggressive slant to the game. Play Tibalt, and that means that Oath of Kaya, sure, it kills a creature, but you don't gain life. Elite Guard Mage, sure, it can come down, block and draw a card, but it doesn't gain any life. With the way this game is actually being sequenced right now, if you are Shahar, you need to generate some advantages with your Planeswalkers, but as you mentioned, that D-Spark in hand, it's not going to live very long.
So there is the option to remove Tibalt with the Elite Guard Mage now. There's also a D-Spark in hand for the Chandra Fire Artisan for Kai Budde. It's just a question of what do we want to play first. We have Teferi, we've got Enter the God Eternals. We have so many things to do. to get rid of the permanence on Shahar's side of the board.
And this is the direct opposite of the last game we watched, where Kai really couldn't do anything, right?
Yeah.
He had these very slow lands, all these glacial fortresses, didn't find any black mana, didn't get to cast any real spells. In this game, when an Esper player has options as opposed to this is the only thing that I can do, that's where beating them is so incredibly difficult. What's better between Teferi and Enter the God Eternals? Well, what's better between peanut butter and chocolate? I don't know. Pick one. They're both great.
Chocolate.
Oh,
As
wow.
always.
I'm going to disagree.
Oh, do we just become unfriends?
No, we can still be buddies.
Okay,
As long as you bring me peanut butter, we can still be buddies.
All right, I'll get
Smooth,
the chocolate
not
then.
crunchy.
Okay, good. No,
All
that's
right,
fine.
there we go.
Okay, we can agree there.
Back in your good graces,
Good, good.
thankfully.
So that's what we're having at the after party. Woo! So Teferi, hero of Dominaria, has made an appearance. Big T and Little T, the duo, are back together. And D-Spark is saying, go away, Chandra, I don't like you. And very, very well so. That card gets out of hand real fast.
This is just all bad news. I mean, look,
Ooh,
this
wait,
Direfleet
wait.
Daredevil isn't bad.
It's going to grab a D-Spark. It's
It's-
going to kill Teferi.
It's not bad being able to kill Big T. Little T still on the battlefield here. But, you know, these are the kind of exchanges that honestly do kind of favor Kai, because now if you look at Kai's hand again, the Tibalt off the battlefield, now you again get to choose between, well, which awesome card do I get to play this turn? Do I want to play Elite Guard Mage, or do I want to absolutely ruin you and Enter the God Eternals?
Into the God Eternals is just such a satisfying card to play. I won't lie. Like, Esper is not my deck of choice, but when I get to smack something, bin cards, and gain 4 life, yes please, and I make a dude, a 4/4.
Yeah.
That's bigger than most of the creatures in Shahar's deck, so that's going to get swinging very, very shortly.
It's turn 6 and Kai is at 18. Any thoughts on who's winning?
Yeah. The advantage bar says that Kai is very firmly in the driver's seat here, and Shahar needs a miracle at this point.
Well, a miracle can be started with Experimental Frenzy.
can be.
But I would say for Shahar, he's got to draw that card like next turn, almost certainly, because this is getting really, really tough. Viashina Pyromancer can start to whittle away at Teferi, and Shot can kill Teferi or this army. It looks like he's going to go after the army, but Shahar, you got to draw the 4-mana enchantment, and you got to do it now as Kai's drawn another land.
No hand. We have 3 lands in the hand of Kai Budde, though. The second Elite Guard Mage is going to hit the battlefield. Gain life, draw cards. What do we find off the top of the library? Let's take a look-see. That's another land.
Oh my goodness,
Gracious me.
Shahar, give me a 4-mana enchantment.
All right, come on, Shahar.
Make it
this
fun for the
interesting,
people
buddy.
at home.
One time. Let's go.
Oh.
No. Bad Mountain. No biscuit. Come on. All right, he's still okay. He's not dead yet. If Kai keeps drawing lands, it's all right. That's a Hero Precinct 1. That's not a land.
That's not a land, but that's not the end of the world either.
No.
This is a situation where you saw Shahar play that land because his goal right now is to maximize Experimental Frenzy if he peels it off the top.
Yes.
That means he'd have access to a ton of mana, he'd have access to a land drop. We want to see it, just a runaway Steamkin.
Okay, it's not terrible. Not great, not terrible.
This is another card that, as you mentioned, not great, not terrible. It does set up for Experimental Frenzy pretty well to be able to go nuts if things break his way.
Land off the top.
Yep.
Okay, Shahar, you are lucking out here real hard like you do.
He's got a hope. He's got a small chance, a small hope that things break his way if he draws Experimental Frenzy. I figured Kai would do
nice.
this, which is
That's
bounce
cool.
the Guard Mage and then replay it and draw another card and gain some more life.
Isolated Chapel off the top, though. We're getting through this little clump of land here, and there's an Oath of Kaya. That is a big draw off the top. Getting rid of one of these creatures, just blocking any chance of Shahar getting through here. Whew, that's a big one.
It's still a shot at Frenzy.
Let's see. That's not
Okay.
at the stage. We could, maybe.
He can
Let's
backdoor.
see.
He can backdoor a Frenzy off of this card. This is 2 looks at it. Having to pay 3 mana for this is not great.
It's a Legion War Boss.
Yep,
We could
neither-
play both of them, though.
You can play both of those, but neither of those are Experimental Frenzy. The window is closing so much on being able to draw that card and have it actually matter.
Very much so, especially with these flyers in the air. I believe he boarded out all of his lightning strikes, so we have no one-time lightning strike off the top to deal with these birdies. Ruh-roh. This poor little gobbo is just going to smack straight into a Hero Precinct 1.
The nice thing here for Shahar is that he's got the ground locked up, and Kai has drawn another land. So it looks like 4 damage will probably come across in the air, at least 2. I expect Kai to attack with at least one of these Elite Guard Mages because Kai is aware of the same thing that we're aware of here in the booth, and of course you guys are aware of at home, which is Experimental Frenzy is the only way for Shahar to get back into this game. So only 1 attack in the air, just a Viashina Pyromancer.
He's on a 2-turn clock here. He needs to find something, or he's going to be a little dead. It's not as bad as being a lot dead, but you're going to be a little dead.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, poor little Gobbo. Back you go into the Elite Guard Mage this time via Sheena Pyromancer. Will deal 2 points of damage, but, you know, taking him down from 27 to 25, it just feels like it's a tickle. That's just a... Not even Thought Erasure. Okay, it's not land, so
Nope.
Kai's drawing a little better, but that still doesn't help because there's no hand. But we can do the Surveil.
There's no hand, and of course there is no Teferi Time Reliever to play the Thought Eraser at instant speed. Generating a token here off Hero of Precinct 1, okay, that's great. Being able to Surveil, looks like he put a Glacial Fortress into the graveyard. Again, it's a small window. It's the smallest of windows because obviously Shahar is dead next turn, so it's got to be Frenzy.
It's got to be Frenzy, and even then I don't know if it's enough. I don't think it'll do anything. It's a mountain off the top, so that pretty much wraps it up, Cedric. Kai Budde is still in this. Rough draws for Shahar Shenhar, but let's get those 4 points of damage in or see if we get the concession. What's off the top? Another land? Seriously?
Well,
come on.
Fortunately for Kai, he was not punished. He drew a lot of lands at the worst possible time, but the Guard Mages are good enough. And the German Juggernaut does it again.
He's just pummeling through the competition here. He's still in it. The comeback dream is alive. Kai Budde advances. He's still in this. Shahar Shenhar is out.
Kai's going to get to play against Brad Nelson once again. A little bit of a rematch. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch as those two teammates get to battle against each other. Another Esper Hero Mirror. It was untimely, kind of a bit of mana issues there for Shahar in the first game, not able to deploy his 4 mana Planeswalkers and enchantments. In that second game, it was a freebie. Kai didn't. I don't think Kai played a single spell in the second game, and in the third one, there was a window to draw Experimental Frenzy, which is all you can ask for as a mono red player. We have seen so many times over the past couple of months where a Frenzy off the top runs away with the game. Shahar was hoping to do exactly that, but it didn't show up.
No, didn't happen this time, but that does keep the German Juggernaut alive in this competition. Shahar will have to come back next time and see if he can take down the toughest competition. This is incredible.
I'm really looking forward to the next match. I know we just saw it a little while ago, of course, between Kai and Brad Nelson, them running into each other playing the Esper Hero Mirror again. We're going to get to watch that in just a bit. But I think old Kai is ready to have chats with Becca again.
Let's toss it over to Becca and hear from Kai Budde.
That's right. Thank you, Alias. I'm here with Kai once again, who is once again about to face Brad Nelson. What do you think about doing this again for the second time today?
I mean, I beat Brian in the tournament. I lost to Brad, but yeah, like if Brad beats me again, he's now 3-0 against me, and that would be kind of depressing. So it would be nice to win, but I mean, I'm gonna be happy either way. So.
Okay, so you're happy with just walking home with the Final Four, or do you really want that trophy? Because I don't know, if you don't really want it, then I think Brad.
Trophy, but like losing to Brad, it's an acceptable turn of events.
Okay, fair enough. Now, if you do make it through this next round of finals against Brad in the lower bracket, then you would be seated in the grand finals against Matthias Leverato. What do you think about this newcomer in the Simic Nexus deck?
So it's kind of funny. He's been playing this deck for the whole standard season, and he's been winning everything. First, he qualified for the Arena Qualifier. Then he won the Arena Qualifier. Then the week after, he won an MCQ in Standard with his same deck, qualifying for the next tabletop in Barcelona. And now he's sitting here in the finals. So it's pretty impressive. I still like the matchup from my deck. I don't like it if I have to win both matches. So I think he has to be the favorite. Like, no matter if Brett or me make it, we were playing the same deck. He has to be the favorite to win, but yeah, I mean, upsets are possible.
All right, well, thank you so much, Kai. Good luck going into this next one. Coming up, it is Kai Budde and Brad Nelson battling for a seat in the grand finals right after this break.
My name is Eric Froelich. I'm in the Magic Pro League and the Magic Pro Tour Hall of Fame. It just so happened that my entire 5th grade class really just started getting into Magic. I wanted to go to the local game store. I went with my